are the instructions for the movement bounce pass. To set up this event, you're going to want to mark a spot on the ground. This is going to be your coach's or your volunteer spot. From there, you will measure 5 feet in one direction, turn 90 degrees, and then measure 10 feet. Once you have measured 10 feet, you will mark a spot on the ground. This will be one of your passing spots. You will then go back to your volunteer or your coach's spot, measure 5 feet in the opposite direction from where you just measured, turn 90 degrees, and measure 10 feet in this direction. You will then mark that spot on the ground. This is your second throwing spot. Then, between the two lines and 10 feet away from your coach's or your volunteer's throwing spot, you will mark another spot on the ground. This will be your athlete's starting spot. Now, to complete this event, your athlete will start on the throwing spot. When they are ready, they will bounce the ball to the coach and run or walk, whatever they're most comfortable with, to their first passing spot. From there, the coach will pass the ball to the athlete, and even though this is the movement bounce pass, the coach can do chest passes to the athlete, but the athlete, once they catch that pass, have to bounce pass it back to the coach. When they are done with that first passing spot, they would move to their second passing spot, where the coach would pass the ball to the athlete, and the athlete would then bounce pass it back to the coach. And then they'll move back to their original passing spot, and they will continue doing that back and forth for 60 seconds. To score this event, the athlete will receive 1 point for every pass they catch from the coach. If they drop the pass, they receive 0 points. They also receive 1 point for every bounce pass they make that hits the coach in the hands. If it doesn't hit the coach in the hands or bounces away, they receive 0 points. Now, if a ball bounces away, the athlete has to retrieve the ball. The coach does not go and retrieve the ball. It's only the athlete for this event. And the time does continue to run. So 60 seconds, and the athlete is only doing bounce passes, even though the coach can do chest passes. So now we're gonna have Thad serving as the coach, and as you can see, Thad has gloves on. But as long as they're 6 feet apart from each other, they don't have to have masks on. If they do come within 6 feet of each other, Thad, being the coach, has to make sure he puts his mask on. But the athlete for this event does not have to have their mask or their gloves on. So guys, go ahead and Joe's serving as the athlete, Thad is the coach. Go ahead and show us what this looks like. So you see Joe goes bounce passes, Thad chest passes, Joe bounce passes, back and forth. So there's 1 point for Joe catching, 1 point for hitting Thad in the hands, 1 for Thad in the hands, 1 for Joe catching. And they would continue to go back and forth for 60 seconds. And the total of all the points at the end of 60 seconds is the score that you would put on your roster form or your final score form for your athlete. These are the instructions for the agility dribble. To set up this event, you're going to need 6 cones. Or if you have something else to mark the ground that you want to use, that is a-okay. But you need 6 items to mark the ground. Now it's good if these items can move, just in case you have an athlete bounce into them, because you don't want an athlete to trip on accident. So what you're going to want to do first is find a spot on the ground and mark that first spot. That's going to be your athlete's starting spot. From there, you are going to measure 2 yards and drop your next item. 2 yards and mark that next spot. 2 yards, next spot. 2 yards, next spot. 2 yards, next spot. And that is the end cone or the turnaround cone that we will be using for this event. Now to complete this event, what your athlete is going to do is, depending on what they're most comfortable with, is line up on one side of the starting cone. So whether they're right-handed or left-handed, this might make a difference. But what their goal is depending on what side of the cone they start at, to weave through the cones So in other words, they're going to be doing a slalom through the cones as fast as they can. When they reach the end cone, they will dribble around the end cone and continue to go through the course, slaloming in between the cones. When they get back to their start cone, they will go around their start cone and continue going through the course. This continues for 60 seconds. Now, for every time an athlete passes either the end cone or the start cone, award your athlete 3 points. So 3 points for every time they pass the end cone or the start cone. Your athlete will do this for 60 seconds and try to get through the course as many times as possible. And at the end of 60 seconds, their total score is what you will put on your final score for them. So now Jaylee is going to show us how to complete this course. Go ahead when you're ready, Jaylee. So as you can see, she weaves her way through the course, and she would receive 3 points as she dribbled around the end cone. She dribbles through the course again, and there's another 3 points. Goes around, keeps going, and 3 more points. And she would continue to do this for 60 seconds. If the athlete loses control of the ball as they complete this event, the clock would continue to run and the athlete would have to retrieve the ball. Not a coach or assistant, just the athlete, but the clock does continue to run. These are the instructions for the mid-range shot. To set up this event, you're going to want to position yourself to start directly underneath the center of the hoop. From there, you're going to want to look as if you're looking at a clock and you're in the middle of the clock, you're going to want to look at 12 o'clock. So basically straight towards where the free throw line would normally be. And measure 10 feet in that direction. Once you reach that 10-foot spot, measure 1 foot to each side and mark that spot. So you'll have 1 spot here and you'll have 1 spot here. So those 2 spots are marked so far. From there, you will go back to the center of the hoop and, acting like it's a clock, look to where 3 o'clock would be. So 90 degrees to your right, and measure 10 feet that direction, and minding our social distancing, mark that spot. Next, you would go back and, acting like where 9 o'clock would be, 90 degrees to the left, measure 10 feet and mark that spot. From there, find the spot that is 10 feet from the center of the hoop and is in between the first 2 spots you marked on each side, and mark that spot on the ground. So there'd be 1 spot here and 1 spot here. Now your athlete, starting from any one of these spots, what their goal is to shoot and make the shot in the hoop. Now for this event, from spots 1, so from the first 2 spots you marked, so from straight up, they would receive 2 points for every make from these 2 spots. They would receive 3 points for every make from the 2 spots that are in between, or the middle spots, and they would receive 4 points for every make along the baseline, so the spots that are closest to where out of bounds would be on a normal basketball court. Now if the athlete shoots and hits the backboard or the rim, award them 1 point. If they shoot and miss everything or airball, they receive 0 points. Now if you choose to use a coach or a volunteer to shag, make sure your coach or your volunteer is wearing gloves, and if they're within 6 feet of the athlete, make sure that they're wearing a mask as well. So Jaylee will be shagging for us, and Pam, go ahead and show us a shot from each spot. So from the first spot there, she takes the shot, and since she missed everything, she would receive 0, but then move on to the next spot. So Jaylee passes it back to Pam. Pam takes the shot, and since she hit the rim right there, she would receive 1 point. So Pam, go ahead and move up to this spot. Pam takes a shot from the top, and Pam makes the shot. Good job, Pam. So from that spot, since it was at the top, she receives 2 points for making the shot. Now, she would take another shot, and oh, so close. She hits the rim and the backboard, so she receives 1 point. Now from the next spot, which is a middle spot, she almost makes it. So she gets 1 point there. If she would have made it, she would have received 3. Now from the baseline, she takes another shot. And since it went over, she would receive 0 points, but if she had made that shot, she would have received 4 points. And your athlete, remember, will take 2 shots from each point spot, add together their scores, and that's the score you will submit on your final scores. These are the instructions for the 3-point shot. To set up this event, if you're on a nice painted court like this one, just use the 3-point line that's painted. If you don't have a nice painted 3-point line, go to the center of the hoop and measure 20 feet out towards where the top of the arc or the free throw line would be. This should be 20 feet. From there, take 1 foot to each side and mark 1 spot from 1 foot on this side and mark another spot 1 foot to this side. Those are your first 2 shooting spots. From there, go back to the center of the hoop and acting like you're in the center of a clock and looking towards 12 o'clock. Go ahead and look towards where 11 o'clock would be on your clock. Walk out there 20 feet and mark that spot on the ground. Do the same thing with 10 o'clock and mark that spot on the ground. From there, go back to the center of the hoop and again, acting like you're looking at a clock out at 12 o'clock, find the spot 20 feet away from the hoop. That would be approximately 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock and mark those spots. These are the 6 spots that your athlete will be shooting from for the 3-point event. Now, they have to be 20 feet away, so make sure that your spots are 20 feet from the center of the hoop because that is the distance of the 3-point shot. Now, your athlete will take 2 shots from each spot, and for every shot that your athlete makes, award them 3 points. For every shot they take and they hit the rim or the backboard, award them 1 point. For every shot they take and miss everything or airball, they receive 0 points for that shot. Now, it is optional and you can have a coach. Tashina here is serving our coach. You can have a coach shag balls for this event, but you need to make sure if you're a coach or a volunteer shagging balls that you wear gloves for the entirety of this event. And if you're closer than 6 feet to the athlete, that the coach or volunteer also has a mask on. Okay, so we're gonna have Joe show us a shot from each one of these spots. Go ahead, Joe. So he takes the shot. He would receive 1 point on that shot for hitting the rim. And he would receive 1 point there. So move to the next spot, Joe. There you go. So from the next spot, he would take a shot. So far he would have received 1 point, and you see the coach going to shag with her gloves on and passes the ball back to Joe. Joe takes a shot, and he would receive 1 point again for hitting the rim on that shot. He would continue this for every single spot. 3 points for a make, 1 point for hitting the rim or the backboard, and no points for missing the shot. So there he would receive 3 points for that as example.